Hello, MCU fans. Today is going to be my breakdown and reaction to the Marvels movie, as well as my attempt to place it in the MCU timeline. It's a little trickier than it seems at first, but I think I've got it down, so we'll see. But there will be spoilers, so make sure you've seen the movie first, and if you haven't seen it, oh man, go see it. I don't understand why this movie isn't doing better. I mean, is it the best Marvel movie that's ever come out? No, not by a long shot, but it's a good movie. It's a good story, a good plot. The acting is fantastic. Aman Vellani is a treasure in every scene she's in. The post-credits are very important, and even the overall plot is very important to moving the multiverse saga forward. So yeah, go check it out. Hopefully it's going to be like Elementals, where it kind of just hung out there for several weeks and continued to do better and better as it went along, because this movie deserves it. In fact, if you've already seen it, go see it again. Help this thing out. But anyway, there will be spoilers in this video, so make sure you've seen it first. But assuming that's okay, let's dive right in and see what we can find out. Now, we are running the contest all month of November. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment. One random winner will be announced on a video in early December and can choose between one of the books or steel books above. Best of luck. Also, I'm excited to announce I'm finally setting up a membership option. So first of all, I want to thank everybody who just subscribes, watches videos, likes them, leaves comments, etc. You're doing a fantastic job supporting the channel just by doing that. But for those that want to go a little bit further, there is now a join button, and for just 99 cents a month, you get lots of loyalty badges, as you can see, and those are for how long you have been a member, and you get custom emojis. They only let me add 4 for now, but I can continue to add more over time. A big thing is I will do a priority reply to anyone that's a member. I'm going to reply to everybody still, but man, it's getting hard. So I promise you much faster responses if you're a member. Also, there'll be member shout outs, and I'll continue to add perks over time. My goal is to do this full time, and this type of supporting the channel of this way by joining as a membership really goes a long way into helping me do that. But again, no matter what you do, just by watching this video, I really, really appreciate your support. So thank you. All right, let's dive into this. So when does the Marvels happen? So I'm going to kind of set up a framework, and then we're going to kind of check it as we go through the review of the movie and then see where we land. So there's actually 4 entries in the MCU that tie in directly into this movie. We have Monica Rambeau's previous appearance, which is in WandaVision in November of 2023. And the timeline book has basically canonized these dates now. We have Captain Marvel's latest appearance, which was in Shang-Chi, March to April of 2024. We have Nick Fury's appearance, which this is not his latest, but it is important to the overall discussion, so I'm going to list it, Far From Home in June to July of 2024. And we have Kamala Khan, who last appeared in September to October of 2025 in the Ms. Marvel series. Now, again, all of these, we know those are the dates because the timeline book has come out with all those in it. Then we have the Disney Plus timeline, which, believe it or not, has been 100% accurate other than Shang-Chi, and which they fixed that. So I really do think the Disney Plus timeline is Marvel's way of telling us at a high level what the timeline is. So we know from the timeline book that Werewolf by Night is in October, and Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special is in December of 2025. So then, if you want to go watch my other videos for more details, you can, but Quantum Mania, it seems to be in July, Guardians of the Galaxy in August, and then Secret Invasion is seemingly in November because it features Unity Day, which is a very special day in Russia, which is in November. And we know it's 2026 because it's after Guardians Holiday Special. So therefore, we can put Secret Invasion on here, and my guess is November 2026, and we're not going to know that for sure until the next timeline book comes out, but anyway, we know it's we know it's in 2026 at least. So really, then we just have to decide where to put the Marvels. Now, according to Samuel L. Jackson in an interview, he made it really clear. This series, Secret Invasion, has to happen so the Marvels can happen. All these things are connected in an interesting sort of way. I'm going to trust Sam Jackson, and in fact, we're going to see that this does make sense. Several of the things in Secret Invasion do go straight into this movie. So therefore, the Marvels, we don't know the date yet, but it's after Secret Invasion, Shang-Chi, Ms. Marvel, and WandaVision. And one of the things I thought was so impressive about this movie, though, is even though you could argue, oh my gosh, that's a lot of homework if you haven't watched all this, you don't have to. They bring you up to speed very quickly on the things that happened in these movies and TV shows. So very, very good job in that regard. Okay, so what about the movie? So keep this model in mind as we try to decide, does it fit here as we look at the movie? So we get a chance to catch up right off the bat with Carol. She's out in space all alone, kind of a bummer. Of course, we haven't seen her for a while, but we know now that she's just, I guess, going out and crusading around the galaxy. She's very, very solemn, which I would too if I was alone in a spaceship, just rescuing the universe. So again, we last saw her in both Endgame in October 2023, but more importantly, in the end credit scene to Shang-Chi. So that's the last we've seen of her. So what's she been up to? Well, she has her memories of Monica and Maria posted on her wall, Maria Rambeau and Monica Rambeau. That's very cool, although we will learn she has not seen Monica since she was a little girl. Maria, she's seen more recently, which we'll get to in a moment, but in fact, we do learn there is some tension in WandaVision between Monica and Carol because Monica believes that Carol didn't come back to see her mother when she died of cancer, which again, we'll talk more about that. But notice when Jimmy Woo brings up Captain Marvel, Monica immediately says, we are not talking about her. So there's a little tension between those two that does get resolved in a very touching way in the movie. All right. I said she's alone, but technically she's not alone because we will learn that she has taken Goose from Maria. And when Maria got so sick with cancer, and Goose is helping with the chores, right? Doing the coffee. That's a good kitty, a very good kitty. So honestly, she has a pretty nice setup for space travel. If I had to be alone in space, I could do it with this setup. It's pretty good, pretty good. So then Nick Fury gives her a call. So let's talk about Nick Fury. All right, so Fury has appeared 3 times since Endgame. He appeared in Far From Home, which I'll mention a couple times throughout this. He appeared in Secret Invasion, and then as we learned from Samuel L. Jackson himself, his next appearance is in this movie, The Marvels. So this is the order of his appearances. All right, so where is he? He's on the S.A.B.E.R space station. Which, interestingly enough, they give these coordinates in the trailers. So this is a shot from the trailers, but in the movie they don't give the CO53.FR da 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 da. I don't know why. I don't know if they forgot or what. But anyway, notice on the left of the station you can see one of the jump points. That's going to be really important because we're going to see Monica out there looking at that. And we do also learn what S.A.B.E.R stands for: Strategic Aerospace Biophysics and Exolinguistic Response. Goodness, say that 5 times fast, right? Anyway, so it seems to be renamed from the Peak in the comics because the Peak was the headquarters of S.W.O.R.D. orbiting the Earth. And I don't even know what's happened to S.W.O.R.D. I would like a little summary on that. I mean, did it fall apart after WandaVision and that whole mess? Interesting. Anyway, so Fury has been on S.A.B.E.R for quite some time. We learn in Secret Invasion, Agent Fury is building up the most complex aerospace defense system in the history of mankind. And of course, Talos says, oh, it's too heavy here, man. I got to go up to my space station. You've been there for years. He's so ticked at him. So that's important. Fury has not come back to Earth prior to Secret Invasion, which is why the Marvels has to be after it, because we'll see he does end up coming back to Earth in the Marvels. So that's just one of the many reasons Secret Invasion dovetails nicely into the Marvels. All right, so we see Fury still has his pager. You might remember that pager he used to contact Captain Marvel in Infinity War in the post-credit scene. And then this is interesting. So he refers to her as the prodigal child of the Milky Way. That's cool. But notice the station is now staffed mostly by humans. Or I guess they could be Skrulls pretending to be human. That's pretty funny if so. But if you remember in Far From Home, where we did see the space station, we also saw it was mostly Skrulls. So I think this is another reason this is likely happening after Secret Invasion, because probably Ritson kicked all the Skrulls off the station. I don't know if it's a purely U.S.-owned station or if it's kind of a UN thing, but I'm kind of guessing it's a U.S. government station, in which case he probably said, get the Skrulls off of there. But like I say, it'd be kind of funny if they were pretending to be human. That's epic. Anyway, then we learn that Carol got revenge on the Supreme Intelligence. So one of the things she said in the Captain Marvel movie way back in 1995, from a chronology standpoint, is she said, tell the Supreme Intelligence that I'm coming to end it, ending the war. Because she's a little ticked at the Supreme Intelligence after what happened in that first movie. And sure enough, she did what she said she was going to do. She's all suited up there, heads to Hala, we see in the flashback, and demolishes the Supreme Intelligence. What she didn't realize is the Supreme Intelligence, besides like being a jerk, also was an AI that was kind of keeping the planet running. So we ended up with a civil war after this happened, and years of battling, years of fighting, and that has resulted in all kinds of problems on the planet. The atmosphere being messed up, the sun being messed up, droughts, etc. So we're going to see one of the main plots of this movie is trying to bring Hala back to life again. But it's mentioned this was like 30 years ago, which fits well because 1995, and then now we're in at least 2026, as we saw. So, okay, that's good. And then we see that Dar-Benn, who's our main villain, was there when it happened. You can see she's got the more Kree-looking outfit there. So Dar-Benn, interestingly enough, is in a relationship with well, Ashton, I should say, the actress, is in a relationship with Hiddleston. You got to love that, right? Villainy comes in pairs. And I think they've even had a kid together. I don't believe they're married, but they are in a relationship, which is kind of wild that her movie debuted when his finale debuted. So much going on, which is why I'm so late with this video. I'm so sorry. That Loki video drained me. But anyway, yeah, pretty cool. They're both villains together. I'm kind of bummed her movie hasn't done so well, and when obviously Loki did really well. But, hey, it happens. Thor: The Dark World had Loki in it, and that wasn't very good. So it's not Ashton's fault. She was fine. Anyway, so she is Dar-Benn, and she is now leading the Kree after that long civil war that resulted after the Supreme Intelligence was wiped out by Carol. So she refers to Carol as the Annihilator because she kind of wrecked Hala, unintentionally, but wrecked Hala. And so now she's basically a revolutionary. We see that number one, she's got a bangle on. Notice there on her left arm, she has one of the bangles. The other one, of course, Kamala has. And you remember from the Miss Marvel series, it was found on what looks like a Kree arm. So we learn a little bit more about it in this movie. And this is really interesting. We learned the bangles, the set of them, were used to create the jump points around the galaxy, which kind of makes sense. I mean, the bangles' power, like we saw in Miss Marvel, lets you rip through space at points because it did that rift with the Noor dimension where it kind of was interfacing with our dimension. Interesting, right? And that was only one of the bangles. It caused the time loop where she went back in time and did the closed loop with her great grandma. So yeah, I think this is Kang Tech. They didn't say that in the movie, but I really think this is Kang Tech. But it's very interesting that it helped create those jump points. All right, so also then in her right arm, she has the same weapon Ronan had, the hammer, if you will, which makes her, and it doesn't have the Power Stone in it, but still, with the bangle and the hammer, she's very powerful. So I was kind of hoping with the Kree in this, we were going to get the payoff from the Far From Home Easter egg. I'm not going to let this go. Darn it, Marvel, tell me what they were talking about here. This is obviously Fury and Hill, which is really Talos and Soren in disguise, saying, I thought Kree having sleeper cells was top secret information. What are the Kree sleeper cells? I want to know. I'm not going to drop it, Marvel. You got to tell me. Anyway, we don't find out. Bummer. But yeah, as I said, Dar-Benn considers Captain Marvel the Annihilator and wants revenge. All right, so Dar-Benn has located, obviously, the second bangle, and she puts it on and starts to use it to open rifts in space. Now, her goal is just to create her own jump points. We're going to see it goes pretty poorly later on, but her goal is to create new jump points and use that to siphon out resources from other planets, which we'll get to. So Captain Marvel comes to investigate, and she's got Goose on her side there. Supposedly Brie Larson has a cat allergy, so that's typically why it is an animated / CGI cat whenever it's on her shoulders. But in this case, I'm pretty sure they had to animate that. Ain't no cat going to do this stunt work. But anyway, so she's now on the planet after Dar-Benn has left, but some of the Kree soldiers will see her still around, and she's checking out this situation. Meanwhile, we have Monica investigating the jump point that I mentioned outside of the S.A.B.E.R space station, and because of what Dar-Benn is doing, opening these new jump points, basically, these rips in space, it's messed up some of the other jump points. So she's out checking that out, that's a cool shot of her just staring at it. And of course, remember, Monica we last saw in WandaVision when she was contacted by a friend of her mother's, i.e. Fury, via this Skrull, who said, he wants you up there. So presumably she's been working with Fury in space ever since WandaVision. Then we have Kamala. Kamala is avoiding doing her homework, as you can see, because her mother's saying that doesn't sound like science to me. This is the post-credit scene from the Miss Marvel show, which we're going to see seems to happen quite a distance in time from when the show itself happened, which is interesting. They made it look like it was right after the show ended, but no, it's quite some time after. But so her bangle starts to activate. So we then see this cool shot where all three of them are using their powers and or the bangles activating, and that's what creates them to be, what makes them become entangled. And we start getting the craziness where now Monica and Kamala swap places. You got Kamala sitting in the spacesuit that Monica's wearing, floating outside the space station, staring in the window. Love her so much. Hi, Nick Fury. Is this an Avengers test? I mean, the fact that she's not just scared to death, but instead thinks, oh my gosh, I'm going to be an Avenger. I'm telling you, she is so good in this movie. Just absolutely so much joy in her role. So anyway, Monica switched to where Carol was, and she goes flying through the rift in space there and lands on the ground, no longer in her spacesuit, obviously. And she gets attacked by some Kree assailants, which through all of these crazy swaps are going to end up in Kamala's house, which is hilarious. And Carol, of course, is now in Kamala's room, which, of course, we saw in that post-credit scene. And then they start using their powers again. We get more swaps, and eventually Monica ends up in Kamala's house fighting those Kree soldiers that I mentioned. Her powers are really cool. We see them on display a lot, where she can turn intangible, kind of like the Vision. So very, very, very cool. Kamala at one point ends up on a ship in space with Fury, does some pretty cool moves, and throws a gun over to Fury, and he gets to do a little action himself. And then at some point, she ends up on a spaceship here in the hallway and gets to meet Goose. So funny when Goose does this little Flurkin thing. She just screams in fear. It's just incredible. But bye-bye Kree soldiers, right? And so eventually, Fury and Monica show up in Kamala's home after all this craziness. So they fly down. No more using powers, right? They're just going to come down. But this again goes back to why I'm saying it has to be after Secret Invasion, because if Fury didn't come back to Earth all that time, and his beard looks so much better. And he's in a much better mood after all that happened. He was so depressed during Secret Invasion, but after all that happened there, he was in a much better attitude. So anyway, they come to the Kamala family. And by the way, the Kamala, her family is epic also. Keep in mind, they know her secret. They know she's Miss Marvel. So they are basically involved in this whole movie. Kind of reminded me of Blue Beetle a little bit. They did the same thing in that movie where the family was epic. But all three of these guys are just awesome in the movie. You can see they're not happy about the damage. Sorry, guys. And then you see Nick Fury. Now he's on good terms with Goose, even though Goose took out his eye last time. And Goose is like, "Yeah, you want me to take out the other one? You better give me some cat food right now. I want a cat treat." But anyway, Monica kind of sums things up. Hey, our powers are entangled. You can absorb light. I can see it. And she can turn light into physical matter? I have never seen anything like that, she says. And Kamala's like, "Oh, I can totally show you." And uses her powers and results in yet another swap. Now, this one scared me. I mean, besides the fact Captain Marvel's really mad, you got that. But this one scared me because I'm afraid of heights. So I was like, oh, please get her out of the sky. Please make this end. And she's trying to use her hard light powers, and she's not able to. I don't know if she's trying to do like the Iceman trick where he created the bridges in the sky. I never understood how that would work. I'm going to be real honest. It was cool to see it, but I never understood how it would work. But nonetheless, then Monica Rambeau learns to fly because she had never done that before. And she manages to grab a hold of of Miss Marvel rather, but it's only a timely swap that ends up saving them because it ends up being Captain Marvel, that crashes to the ground. And it's so funny because Fury's really nervous thinking that's Kamala. And he goes, oh, it's just Carol. Ouch. He gets some really good one-liners in this. Doesn't do much. His role is just to pretty much move the plot along here and there, but he's funny. He's always great. All right, so then we pick up with a peace talk featuring Emperor Droge in particular. And they're all in Skrull form the whole time because there's no reason to turn human. You're on a colony at this point. And this was alluded to in Secret Invasion. Talos says, "I sent out the call to every Skrull that isn't in Emperor Droge's colony." And they answered. So basically, every Skrull is on Earth other than Droge's colony. Well, as we're going to see, Droge's colony does end up on Earth after this peace talk goes amok. So again, Secret Invasion has to happen before the Marvels. Also, the peace talk is mentioned when Fury talks to Vara, his wife. The Kree said they're open to peace talks with the Skrulls, and I need your help. And she's like, "My help?" And he's like, "Yeah, with this, the peace summit. You're the best diplomat the Skrulls have ever had." So I've heard some people say there are no tie-ins between Secret Invasion and the Marvels, and I guess they're not super tight, but still, this is a big tie-in. Vara's literally leaving to the peace conference that we're now seeing. Now, she doesn't appear in the movie, although keep in mind, she would now be in Skrull form, so I can presume maybe she was back in the crowd somewhere. But that would have been nice if they would have at least mentioned her. That would have really made people happy, like, okay, they're super tied together now. But I thought it was a good enough tie. So while Vara isn't there, Dar-Benn is. She's on the Kree side of the peace talks. But it turns out she really doesn't want peace. She's like, "Oh, we'll find you a new place to live after I steal your atmosphere from your planet," which she then begins to do. So as I alluded to earlier, her main goal is to make Hala a habitable planet again. And they need an atmosphere, they need water, and they need a sun. So in this case, we got the atmosphere, and it totally demolishes the planet. And it's really a sad scene because several Skrulls do not make it. And Kamala learns the hard lesson that sometimes you got to let some people die. It was a tough scene. But now we got all these Skrulls. What do we do with the ones that they did save? Well, Captain Marvel calls a friend, which is kind of cool to see these two together. There was definite chemistry between them, I'll just say. It was pretty interesting. You can see it in Valkyrie's face there. But she volunteers to take the Skrulls, presumably to New Asgard, which is interesting. Here she is with them. So she's going to take the Skrulls to New Asgard or somewhere, but I don't know where else she would take them. So that's interesting. Does that mean that New Asgard is like an alien safe haven? Because if you remember, Ritson was all about get these aliens off my planet. He does a bill that designates all off-world-born species as enemy combatants, and we will kill every last one of you. Wow. And even tells Fury, and if you really care about the Skrulls, get him off my planet. Now, it's key to understand. Obviously, Ritson doesn't own the planet, so he's being a little over the top there. But basically, America is not a place where the aliens want to be, that's for sure. But think about it. New Asgard are aliens too. Does that basically mean Ritson declared war with New Asgard? If so, then I can totally see Valkyrie being like, oh, no, you don't. I'm actually going to let all the Skrulls come here, and I'm going to bring even more here. So I don't know if they're going to follow up on this. I hope they do, but I'm betting there's a crud load of Skrulls in New Asgard. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes. Anyway, we also learn that Captain Marvel did visit Maria. Remember, I said that Monica was really mad because she felt like while she was blipped, remember Monica was blipped, and then Maria got cancer. In fact, we learned from the timeline book specifically, it was in 2020. The timeline book tells us in 2020, her cancer had gone into remission and let her continue working, but ultimately it came back and she passes away. But it's really nice to know Carol was there. Carol did come back. So Monica learns that and understands, and it really changes things. So that's kind of cool. The timeline book helped us out, so we knew for sure this happened. But yeah, the movie makes it clear, and that's when Carol took Goose to now be with her. So that's cool. And then, oh my goodness, this was so touching. I mean, this about did me in. Kamala just immediately hugs Monica. There's no hesitation, just this passionate hug of, I'm so sorry, when she learns about losing her mom. It's like, oh gosh. I love Iman Vellani. I just love her. So awesome. Anyway, the three of them together were epic when they were trying to figure out how to coordinate their powers, because now they needed to figure out how can we use our powers in a way that we're a team, to become a teamwork. And I can't remember if this line was actually in the movie, but it was in the trailer, so I'm including this in my breakdown, where Kamala says we're a team, and Monica's like, oh, no, we're not a team. And Carol's like, yeah, we're not a team. But yeah, they kind of are. Because either way, whether they're a team or not, it was great seeing them all together. Kamala's face, oh my gosh, heading out. And yeah, one way or another, I'm calling them a team, which is important because Kamala's desire for being on a team will come into play in the first of the post-credit scenes. So, okay, they head ultimately to the planet Aladna, and it turns out that has a special meaning to Carol. So first of all, I knew this was coming, right? We'd heard for a while there was going to be a singing planet, and I was like, oh my gosh, please no. Please not a singing planet. I don't like singing. But you know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought. The singing was really good. It wasn't super long, and there were just some hilarious gags when the prince, who she ends up having a marriage of convenience to, you can see her kind of hiding here, but this prince, turns out he's quote-unquote bilingual, so he doesn't have to sing. That is so funny. Like everybody else has no choice but to sing, but he can speak two languages, singing and non-singing. That joke was funny. So yeah, the singing didn't last too long. It was all good. I was fine. But yeah, it was basically a marriage of convenience, again, opening the door between Carol and Valkyrie. So very, very interesting. All right, so then Dar-Benn shows up. This being a mostly water-filled planet, it makes sense that Dar-Benn would now go to try to steal the water. So she bangs her stuff together, the hammer and the bangle, opens up another rift in space and starts sucking away their water, which obviously the prince now is trying to defend the planet, as is Carol, and some pretty good special effects and pretty good fight scenes here. But ultimately, obviously, Dar-Benn gets away. So now Dar-Benn has stolen some atmosphere and stolen some water. The only thing left is the sun. And the sun, Dar-Benn is going to ultimately steal from the Earth. So before that, we do see the goose. We've seen this in a couple different scenes throughout the movie, is looking pretty big. Been eating a lot of cat food, or, oh, maybe might be a little pregnant. So it's kind of weird. You saw these little, I thought they were brains. They were really nasty looking, but they turned out to be Flurkin eggs. and out of them come the sweetest, cutest little kittens. Great scene. Baby Flurkin everywhere. So now the three of them have now shown up on Fury's S.A.B.E.R space station. I love this. Monica's like, I can't. Can you? And she's like, I got it. I got it. So what is it they got to get? Well, what they're talking about is the fact that now that Dar-Benn is trying to steal the sun, it's caused damage to the S.A.B.E.R space station, and they've got to evacuate. So everybody's worried. Fury's saying, shields up, and we got to get everybody off of here. And the only way to get them all out, it turns out, is to use the Flurkin. I've heard some people didn't like this scene. Oh my goodness, it was hysterical. Basically, they take the little kittens, the little Flurkins, and they use them to eat. This is like one of the technicians scared to death, and you see the Flurkin in the background there. I hate the fact that it's impossible to show scenes from the movie unless you find blurry images on the internet. Oh well. Sorry, I don't have any other choice. But anyway, very, very funny as the Flurkins suck them all in. And it's like a horror show, but even though it's going to save them all. So they get onto different shuttlecrafts, and you can see the Flurkin there retrieve or expulsing, I guess, the person from its belly. It must be really big in there. I want to know what it's like in there. Come on, show us, Marvel. What's it like to be in a Flurkin belly? Got to see it. So as they're crash landing, we see them passing by the Statue of Liberty, which has been restored to its original copper color. And notice in the upper left, is that the shield? I mean, they don't make it any clearer in the movie, so it's really hard to tell, but that kind of looks like they put Captain America's shield back up again. Of course, you remember in No Way Home, that's where we first saw that it was deoxidized back to its copper color. And in this scene, the shield had fallen off by now, but we see that. But then what's really funny is in the Ms. Marvel show, which was after No Way Home, oh, they made a mistake, right? It was back to its green color, its oxidized color. But they fixed it. It was one of the few times where they've gone back and spent some big money to fix a scene. And I think the obvious reason is because they knew people were going to watch this series, getting ready for the Marvels, and they would see, the Statue of Liberty changing all kinds of different colors. So I did a video actually on every time Disney Plus has fixed things like this behind the scenes. And you can check that one out. It's actually the most viewed video on the channel. It's pretty cool. But nonetheless, here's another shot from the direct.com where they're showing before and after. And yeah, luckily it has been fixed. So once again, Fury lands on Earth. And this time, for sure, everybody would know he's here. I mean, he's landing in a shuttlecraft with a bunch of Flurkin cats and a bunch of S.A.B.E.R employees. I'm sure this made the nightly news. And if Talos had seen it, he'd be like, dude, you came back to Earth and didn't tell me? No, this has to be after Secret Invasion. All right, so the final fight was awesome. By now, they have been working on their skills together to try to figure out how can we use our powers and do the swaps to our advantage. So there's some really cool shots of the three of them working in unison. This one's really cool of the three-way hitting Dar-Benn up. And then this is cool. We see Kamala swapping with Monica, so love that. And Carol putting the hammer down, from Avengers. Then finally, Dar-Benn now has opened a giant rift in space to try to steal some of the Earth's sun. And this is a very blurry image of Dar-Benn fighting Captain Marvel in the sky there. But it turns out her rift didn't just open a portal to send the sun over to Hala from Earth. Instead, it's to another universe. And I've heard some theories that this might even be a black hole we're looking at. I don't know if I really understand how it could be unless part of opening to the other universe is you go through its black hole first. So I don't know. I'm doubting that's a black hole. But if so, that's pretty wild. But more importantly, Dar-Benn gets atomized. Creating this rift ends up killing her. But they have to close this rift because we're literally talking about a separate universe. This is an incursion. I mean, we're literally watching an incursion happen. And this is what's so important. Keep in mind, it was the bangles, which, by the way, Dar-Benn, I forgot to mention it, now has both bangles on in this scene. So the bangles allowed her to open a rift in space, which, if my theory is correct that this is ultimately Kang tech, this might be how the Kangs jump between universes and have caused so many problems during the multiversal war. If they were using devices similar to this to jump between universes. Because remember, in Loki, season 1, episode 6, He Who Remains said they were all from different universes that were stacked on top of each other, but they managed to meet each other. So maybe this is how they did it. Well, anyway, for Dar-Benn, it didn't end up very well. But the problem is now we got to close this rift. And so Monica Rambeau, as well as some help from the others, tries to seal it and realizes I can't do it from this side. I don't know why. They don't really explain why she has to go on the other side, but nonetheless, she does. So the only way she can close it is going to the other side, and she does close it, but now she is trapped in the other universe. Yikes. So we shift to seeing that the Khan family is helping Carol move in to Monica's home so that somebody's there, to keep to watch over it. And notice she's got the Goose snacks, which is a giant box, and then the Carol snacks. So man, Goose eats a lot. Those Flurkin eat a lot. All right, so then we see an important scene where Kamala is, talking about how much she's enjoyed the teamwork and such. And so that does lead to our first, if you want to call it a post-credit scene, it's kind of a pre-credit scene. I mean, I don't know if they ultimately were going to have it as a post-credit and then moved it right before the credits, but nonetheless, it's a post-credit scene, we'll call it. So she has now the iPad of Nick Fury's and has looked up information to find other superheroes around her age. And we see Lucky, the pizza dog, which of course means we're going to see Kate Bishop. I love Haley Steinfeld. I love it. It was great to have her back. I really, really hope they get a team going. I have no idea if it's going to be Young Avengers, Champions, some other new name that we don't know. But anyway, just these two alone are awesome. And then they mention Ant-Man has a daughter. So obviously Cassie Lang. And then we have so many other potential new Avengers that have been introduced, Patriot from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Billy and Tommy, Kid Loki, maybe Scar. We still need Hulkling, maybe Iron Lad. I mean, so many, maybe America Chavez, so many possibilities. Very, very excited about this. And then in the second post-credit scene, Monica now wakes up in this other universe, trying to figure out where on earth she is. And she sees what looks like her mom, but then realizes, no, that is not my mom. In fact, it is binary, which if you know in the comics, Captain Marvel has gone by many, many names. But long story short, Rogue saps her powers, so she has none. And then the X-Men try to help her out to reignite her powers. Turns out that some mutant powers come out of her and she ends up being binary and has the power of a binary star. So pretty cool. Who knows where they're going to go with it here. Which is why it's not worth going into the comics too much. But it is a very popular character in the comics. And yeah, it's Maria Rambeau in this other universe who did not have any children, so there's no Monica, but became binary. It's kind of similar, though, to in the 838 universe from Multiverse of Madness, where Maria became Captain Marvel in that one. Now, I therefore don't think this is 838. Some people have theorized it might be, but number one, she's totally different person, right? Totally different powers, I mean. So I don't think that's the case. But also, this time, oh, by the way, notice the X door. So yeah, you kind of know it's X-Men, right? And sure enough, we get the Beast. Fully CGI, but Kelsey Grammer's voice. And of course, the Beast was played by Kelsey Grammer in Days of Future Past in a brief scene, but also in X-Men Last Stand. So it's raised the question of which X-Men universe is this? Is it 838? Well, I doubt it, because in addition to the fact that Maria Rambeau is totally different, also the Beast talks about Charles, makes a reference to Charles, obviously Charles Xavier, and he died in 838. So I don't think it's 838. Is it the X-Men universe? Could be. Could be a post Days of Future Past X-Men universe. Is it the X-Men animated universe? X-Men 97, that's coming out. There's a part of me that leans that way, that thinks that this is the universe from there. So we'll have to see if Binary shows up in the X-Men 97, which is coming out soon. But yeah, that would be really wild if that were the case. So very, very exciting. Monica is stuck in this other planet. Oh, I should mention too, notice Binary has the two bangles. So there appears to be a sets of bangles in every universe, and she has both. So that means she could technically open a rift to send Monica back. But yeah, boy, so much to think about here. Are they setting up an X-Men versus Avengers situation? Are we going to get a bigger incursion from this? Is this the Deadpool universe? Oh my gosh, just so many things to think about, right? Just craziness. Anyway, so let's go back now to try to decide where specifically in the timeline the Marvels fits. So everything so far has fit perfectly with the Marvels being after a Secret Invasion, etc., and all those other things. Now let's look at Kate Bishop's age. So Kate in the Hawkeye show, this is in Hawkeye, says she's 22, and that came out in December 2024, or happens in the timeline in December 2024. Well, she also, we learn when Yelena is reading off information about her, we learn she's a senior in college. Okay, so we know she's a senior in college and 22 in December of 2024. So believe it or not, we can get a very small window of when her actual birthday is, which we'll see is really important. So let's look at this. So we know that Kate is 22 in late December. Let's just call it December 20th because it's a few days before Christmas. So that means she was born between December 21st of 2001 and December 20th of 2002. Okay, because if she's 22 on that date, that's the range. By the way, thank you to the Marvel Cinematic Universe wiki, best wiki ever, for helping break this down, because this is fascinating. Okay, we also know from what Yelena said that she's a college senior in December of 2024. So then you could back it up to, that means she was in kindergarten from 2008 to 2009. And you say, why does that matter? Well, because in New York, you start kindergarten on the year that you are 5 on December 1st. So this means she was 5 on December 1st of 2008, which means that she was born also, we have a range of December 2nd, 2002 to December 1st of 2003. So if you take this range and the range above, we can actually narrow her birthday down to December 2nd, between that December 2nd and December 20th, which is also interesting because Haley Steinfeld's birthday, I believe, is December 11th. So that's pretty cool. That might be right. So you're saying to yourself, why on earth does this matter? Here's why it matters. Because we know that she's 22 in December of 2024. So presumably, if she had an early birthday, she just turned 22, okay? We learn in the movie she's 23. So for her to still be 23 must mean it's in early December, or it wouldn't work. She'd be 24. So believe it or not, everything still fits if we make the Marvels be in December of 2026, basically early December, because that was the window we found where she would still be 23 and not yet 24. Wild, huh? So I have no idea if Marvel thought that through as much as the wiki did. I think the answer is probably no, but it still fits. It still fits, but it needs to be in December of 2026 for this to work, because she's 22 in 2024. She's 23 in 2025 and still 23 here. So anyway, interesting. Here's the one problem though. Kamala is 16 in Miss Marvel, right? She says, no, I'm 16. We also know she's a junior, so she's a junior in high school. Okay, great. Let's talk about you. It's junior year. And in the post-credit scene, which we know is in the Marvels, right? So this scene is in the Marvels. We know that she's still in school because her mom is saying that doesn't sound like science to me. So she's not in college, but she is still in high school, so she could still be in her junior year or her senior year. Well, here's the problem. In the movie, she says she's 16, which is impossible. There's no way the Marvels can be in 2026 and she's still 16. So she doesn't actually say it verbally, like the line is not stated. It's just in this one graphic that goes by quickly. So I could let that go, but I do hope that Marvel thinks she's at least 17. And I would love it if they fix this when it goes onto Disney+. It's just a small little change. Please, Marvel, just fix it, because there's no way she's 16. It's impossible. Also, one other issue with December is the foliage. That does not look like a December tree. Now, I will say in general, if the foliage doesn't play into the actual plot of a movie, I don't hold it as very important. I mean, because sometimes the foliage is when the movie was filmed, not so much when they're trying to say it's happening. And these are just little passing shots. We don't get much of it, but still, that don't look like December. So here's the bottom line. I'm going to go with December 2026 because everything fits. Kate's age, it happens after all the other things are supposed to happen after. All the continuity works perfectly other than Kamala's age and a weird-looking tree. So I do think when it shows up on Disney+, it's going to be after Secret Invasion. But yeah, I really hope they fix Kamala's age. My guess is when they filmed this movie, they assumed it was going to be much closer to being after the the Miss Marvel show. And it turned out, due to scheduling or whatever, that it's a good year and a half after, or at least nearly a year and a half. Okay, let me know what you think. Do you think December 2026 works? Do you think they'll fix her age? Do you think there's some other solution? I don't know. But it's kind of fun to try to figure it out. Okay, so don't forget, we do have the November contest. Be a subscriber, leave a comment, and you'll have a chance at one of these books or steel books. And also, we have the new membership option if you're interested. Love to have you join. And lastly, we do have the Discord server. So I will leave a pinned comment so that you can join the server. And here we are talking about the Marvels inside the spoilers, of course. And by the way, that's the way we do it with the server. We're really careful, and we have a spoiler section. So if people want to talk about something that's out and other people want to avoid it, don't go to that channel, right? So love to have you join. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we'll all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, ever-expanding Marvel Cinematic Universe.